So I know I'm rather late to this in internet terms, but I watched that episode of the Scishow on knitting and physics, and I want to talk about it. And I know this isn't my usual niche, so I would just like to present my credentials in this form of my cardigan that I've been working on. I would consider myself a solidly intermediate knitter, but I have been knitting for 15 years. I need to pick up some more advanced techniques. Anyways, I watched that episode of The Scishow last night. A lot of people took issue with this episode for a number of reasons. Knitting is made up of loops, and they refer to knitting as being made up of knots. They talked about stockinette stitch, and then they showed pictures of reverse stockinette stitch. They incorrectly identified an item as knitted when it was in fact woven. Watching it, to me personally, it felt like no one who knew how to knit had been given any input or asked to review it. Now, they have left some pinned comments on the video saying that some of the people who worked on it are knitters. Mistakes do happen, I understand that. The much bigger issue a lot of people took with the video was that it kind of has a questionable attitude towards knitting in general. Pretty early on in the video, Hank Green says something to the effect of, "Yeah, this isn't the most interesting topic, huh?" And throughout the video, he talks about how it was designed through trial and error, and no one really understood how knitting worked. That is, until scientists took a look at it and found there might be something useful there. In the video, he talks about how physicists decided to study the properties of knitted fabric and start applying it to different uses, and how its properties could be useful outside of being a fabric for clothing. He says that knitting was more of an art than a science until the physicists showed up. And he says that looking at the patterns that have emerged over generations tipped off scientists that there might be something useful there. This just in, apparently being clothed and staying warm in the winter is not useful. So at the moment there is a decent amount of knitters and general fiber artists who are not terribly thrilled at this representation of our hobby. I would recommend that people, if you haven't already, go watch it and form your own opinion. Don't just listen to me. But to me personally, and to a lot of other people who watched that episode, it really feels like it devalues knitting. It feels very dismissive, and it feels like it's trying to paint knitting as just an arts thing, just a crafts thing, nothing as important as science. To me, it very much feels like the video is devaluing the fact that knitting is something that people have done to make clothes and all kinds of things for centuries. This color-worked sock was made 800 some years ago. I don't know how many people watching this have attempted to make a sock, but making a sock is not a simple arts and crafts thing. To me, the video really just demonstrates how people will downplay women's work as it's just women's work, it's just arts and crafts. Because to them, making garments, knitting, that kind of thing is female coded. There's this idea a lot of people have that knitting is like this granny hobby, and yes, there are a lot of older ladies who knit, but it is a hobby that transcends demographics. But even in some alternate reality where knitting is a hobby that's only done by older women, it's not just arts and crafts. And when people imply that, I can really tell that they've never tried it. This did not come to fruition by me just picking up 2 sticks and knotting yarn around them. I think people don't realize how much even just math goes into making something like this. To a lesser extent, I also really feel like the Scishow video kind of speaks to how disconnected people have become from how their clothes come to be. Given my audience, I know I am probably preaching to the choir here, but people don't realize just how much work goes into making any garment. Back when I knitted more, I was cranking out like sweaters in like, I guess, a month and a half-ish. And it takes, depending on the yarn you're using, it can take hundreds of hours. But you can go to Walmart and get something that looks similar for what? I haven't bought a sweater in Walmart, I don't think ever, but like, I don't know, 20-30 bucks. You can go to Walmart and get something like that. And I think it really ties into how fast fashion has just generally devalued clothing. I might be going a little bit on the limb here, but I do think that this video demonstrates just how detached we have become from our clothing. All of that to say, I am not impressed with this episode of The Scishow. I believe Hank Green and the team at The Scishow can make a better video on the same topic, and I would like to see that video. But this one was not it.